Hello and welcome to today's Linkability webinar, how businesses can bring in more customers using social selling on LinkedIn. Thank you for joining us. We are very happy to have you here today. And should you have questions while I am talking about social selling, please do put them into the comments and I will answer those at the end. My name's Lynnaire Johnston and I educate and inspire business professionals to leverage the power of LinkedIn to achieve their goals. I do that through my books, Linkability for Powerful Strategies to Maximize Your LinkedIn Success, and Business Gold, the world's first book about LinkedIn company pages. And I also have these LinkedIn Lives, our webinars and audio events. Also, I have a membership site for those who are serious about LinkedIn. I offer a range of services, including profile optimization and makeover, LinkedIn content creation, and network building, training, and coaching. But today, we're here to talk about social selling. Now, what is social selling? Social selling has become a very trendy buzzword, and you're very likely to have heard it used in different contexts. You may not even think it's something that you want to do in your business, but believe me, you do, and you're probably already doing it without realizing it. So today I'd like to explain how you can use LinkedIn to achieve your professional goals through social selling. We'll first look at what social selling is and why it's important. Then we'll look at how that works on LinkedIn and follow it up with the 4 strategies for LinkedIn and social selling. So, first, let's demystify the term social selling and see what it really means in the context of LinkedIn. It means connecting with like-minded people with whom you can build a mutually beneficial relationship that develops trust over time through the sharing of useful information and ideas. All of that leads to business opportunities. Now, those business opportunities come in all guises. They could be someone wanting to work with you, and that's the best outcome. They could be a referral to you, to someone in their network who they know is looking for someone with your skills, and they could be inviting you to speak at an event or something else entirely. Every interaction on LinkedIn is a business opportunity. In a crowded market, you need to stand out. In a competitive market, you need a strong point of difference, especially if you're not competing on price, which, let's be fair, is just a race to the bottom. In a diverse market, you need to appeal to a niche or a target audience. You do this through social selling. Almost everything you buy, especially consumer products, can now be bought online. You can often get it delivered, so you may never have to go to a bricks and mortar store. Every year, more and more businesses more and more business entirely is conducted by phone, on apps, and online using our computers or tablets. Now, stands to reason then that the more that they can find out about you and your product and service on the web, the more likely they'll be to choose you as their supplier or provider. The downside is that this comes at the expense of long-term client relationships. We don't have the same degree of loyalty towards our suppliers. It's often much more transactional and based on than it was in the old days when people knew you by name. And I think that that's a shame, because the personal interaction between a customer and supplier is really hard to put a value on. A positive experience makes everyone feel good, especially the customer. So who then, of course, wants to return to your store or your business? But in the modern day, this is much more difficult because as sellers, we don't have so many opportunities to interact with our customers. Or do we? Enter LinkedIn. These days, the days when LinkedIn was simply a place online to upload your CV are long gone. Now, LinkedIn is the business platform where business is being done. It's able to circumvent the difficulties of traditional selling and utilize the best of modern sales techniques. And you guessed it, that's social selling. This is where you can initiate and develop those relationships that have fallen in through the cracks of the traditional sales process. You get to know someone before you decide whether or not to do business with them. That seems to be the new way of doing things. You build that trust and become the go-to expert in your particular industry or niche. Then, when that person's ready to buy, it's your name that's top of mind for them, and therefore they come to you. On LinkedIn, this process happens in two ways that work side by side. There are two pillars: the relationship and content. As I've said, on the relationship side, we connect and build trust, often through messaging, which we'll talk about in a minute. The other pillar is creating content, which is what establishes your credibility in the eyes of your potential customers. It also makes you visible to people searching for someone offering your services or products. So let's have a look at how we can make that happen. The 4 strategies for social selling start with connecting. Starting your relationship off well is important. So in a moment, I'll share the secrets for connecting successfully. Building relationships takes time, and social selling on LinkedIn is not a race. It's a marathon. So don't expect miracles from day one. They occur over time. Share your knowledge and expertise so you are seen as an expert in your field and one who gives and shares information freely. Interact. Don't just make your content a one-way street. You need to interact with other people's content. This has multiple benefits. It brings more attention to your content or to your posts. It gives you more opportunities to share your expertise. It allows people not connected with you to see who you are and what you do. And it helps develop a relationship with the person who has posted. All these contribute to becoming the person they will approach when they have need of your services. There is a very old and very true saying: you don't get a second chance to make a first impression. Nowhere is that more true than on LinkedIn. And if you want the person you're inviting to connect to say yes, the absolute best way to do that is to send them a personalized message. Personalization includes using their name, that's very important, saying why you want to connect, and making no attempt to sell. In this image, you can see the difference in how the incoming message displays. The one in blue stands out as being something I definitely want to look at because it contains a personal message about why the woman wants to connect with me. The lower one, which has no message, does not entice me nearly so much. So when connecting with someone, don't inadvertently send the default message. It's very easy to do. You need to be in their profile to write a message when you're on desktop. And on the app, if you click connect in their profile, it merely sends a default invite with no message. So you need on the app to go into the more drop-down menu in someone's profile and click on the tab that says personalize invite. It's a great deal more trouble, but it's definitely worth it if someone you really, really want to connect with is being invited. So that's my really main message when it comes to messaging, is to make sure that you personalize your messages on LinkedIn. Now, when sending your invite, you need to make it memorable. You have 300 characters for this, so you need to give the person a good reason for wanting to connect with you. Say something nice about them. Tell them that you've seen the great work that they do on LinkedIn, if that's true, or tell them who you both know, what you have in common perhaps, or where you might have both worked previously in the past. Something else that makes you stand out from everyone else, because you may not be selling your product or your service here, but you are definitely selling yourself. Now, you want to build. Once you've created a great first impression through your connection by sending that personalized invite, you can now cement that positively with a second great impression. How? By following up with a message thanking them for connecting. It's as simple as that. If they responded to your invite positively, pick up on that and mention it in your response. You're trying to build rapport here. You're trying to connect at an emotional level with the person. If they ask a question, answer it in a bit of detail. You might like to ask them a question in return too, perhaps something that you've gleaned from their profile. Or you might like to make a comment about where you live or where they happen to live. I do that quite a lot because New Zealand is a bit of an oddity to a lot of people in different parts of the world, and it is often a good point of difference. If you don't have time to do this, and I do accept that it does take time, send a generic thank you message, but make sure to follow up again with them in a week or two. If you let this slide, it's very hard to make up because your relationship's just beginning. Continue to message the person from time to time, but not in a way that makes them feel harassed. Offer something of value. Send them a post they might like. Invite them to an event. It doesn't have to be your own. Keep in touch with them. If there's big news in your area or in their area, then mention it because that will, again, personalize what you're doing. Now, some people will tag others in posts, which can be a nice thing to do, but I'd warn against doing that without it being relevant to them or in some way. And also, if they don't comment, then your post will be penalized, and you certainly don't want that. My message here is to keep at it with new connections. Some may never respond. They may not be active on the platform, or they simply may not want to have a relationship or conversation with you. And if that's the case, just let it go. There's 900 million more people that you can connect with instead. Now then, messaging people is very powerful when it comes to LinkedIn and social selling. In fact, never underestimate its power. But you can amplify your message and the impact that you make through the different messaging options that LinkedIn offers. Now, you may not know, for example, that you can send any connection a voice message simply and easily via your phone. And people respond to voice messages really well, and they will then answer you, and you can get that relationship moving. And if you want to move up a level, you can send a video message. And I've had several great LinkedIn relationships begin by someone sending me a video message. Again, you can record it directly from your phone and send it straight away. And again, it's very simple and easy. Of course, you can't do either of these things with every message. It simply takes up too much time, but you can be selective and treat the more important connections differently by putting more effort in, and then you'll just reap the rewards. LinkedIn messaging also allows you to set up a Zoom meeting. And this is a great feature. I love it, but not one I'd recommend right at the beginning. When you're starting out a new relationship, you want to be really, really careful, because a request for a conversation may send up red flags. In my own business, which has been built using these techniques, we follow the same process. When we send invites, we personalize them in whatever way makes sense to that particular person. But there are a couple of things to note with these. You cannot add links to invites, and nor can you send a voice message or a video if you are not connected with someone. If you want to make a video impact before you connect, you're better to add the 30-second profile video to your LinkedIn profile, because that's where somebody will be going to check you out, and that's a good way for them to be welcomed to your profile. Now, when the invitation is accepted, we follow it up with a thank you note. Now, these can vary depending on the situation. Sometimes that's all it is, just a thanks for connecting, and we look forward to learning more about them and their work. More often, though, we take the opportunity to go the extra distance. Sometimes we will offer then, depending on the circumstances, a link to our LinkedIn resources. Sometimes we might invite them to subscribe to our newsletter or attend an event, or we might even send them a link to our 77 tips for LinkedIn article. We have all our resources on Linktree, and they're very easy to find. One resource, one place to go, and you can easily spot that. But there are plenty of other ideas for what to send. So perhaps a tip sheet, a link to a post, it doesn't have to be yours, or a news article, especially if it's from a prestigious publication. I think it's important when thinking what to send that you don't use anything that a recipient is in any way going to think that it is an attempt to spam or to sell. You want to keep well away from that at this point in the process. I always think it's a good idea to add value with what you're sending. You want them to feel that you've gone the extra distance, that you've not wasted their time, that you've tried to be relevant and given them something that you think will be useful specifically for them. You want them to feel well of you. Now, it's important to respond to any replies you receive promptly. Don't let them languish in your inbox unanswered, because that's a disconnect between what you're trying to portray on LinkedIn and what they're seeing at their end. So we like to keep in touch with our new connections each month. So we download the list and make sure we send them a follow-up after we've connected. And what they receive depends a bit on what we've already sent them. So we can change this depending how they've interacted with us, what we think they might like, what we've got currently coming up, and what is new at our end. But people who don't respond after a few attempts, we just take them off the list, because we don't like to harass people. But after a year, we make a reconnect attempt, and I can say that that's proving remarkably effective at bringing back connections to life that might have lapsed. So the trick to this one, I think, is being organized and consistent with your messaging. Now then, inform. This is an interesting one, and I like informing because it's something that I just do. It's a third strategy from our social selling list of strategies, list of 4. And this is when you start to educate your connections and followers about what you do, how you help, and the problems that they have that you can solve. This is where you also start to build your visibility and credibility, leading to developing that trust I mentioned earlier. You do this by creating content that gets seen by your connections and their connections and your followers and their networks. This is one of the best ways to build your personal brand on LinkedIn and will give you a significant edge over your competition. While creating content is a significant point of difference, only a tiny percentage of LinkedIn members do this. It's a huge opportunity for you and your business. No matter what your skill set, there's a type of content you can easily create. If, for example, you're a writer like me, you can easily create text posts, newsletters, and articles. If you have a design bent, you might prefer to create images. If you like to be in front of a camera, video will be really great for you. One of the most effective types of post at the moment is a document post. This is also called a carousel, and I saw someone last week describing it as a swipey post. You can create this as a slideshow, which is easily done in Canva or PowerPoint. There are polls too, which don't require too much effort, but are not as effective as they were last year. By that, I mean they don't get as much organic reach. And by that, I mean that they don't get as many views. So they are a good way to interact with people, and I do recommend them from time to time to find out what your audience might be thinking about. And of course, you have events, and you may not think an event is content, but it definitely is. That's because every event you prepare for has content, and as such it can then be repurposed, making them extremely economical. So there are two types of events: LinkedIn Lives like this one, and audio events, which are audio only and of course have no video. There had been talk of another type of post last year, which was a mix of all these different kinds of formats, but that hasn't eventuated, and it seems that LinkedIn has dropped that. Now then, content tips I wanted to share with you. I've been creating content here on LinkedIn for nearly 10 years, and I can tell you this. It is a marathon, not a sprint. Very few people will get a viral post, and that is despite what you might hear and see and read about. You are better to recognize that this takes time. If you want instant success, LinkedIn posting may not be for you. But if you're prepared to post consistently and regularly, you'll find that over time, word of your expertise spreads. People will hear about you from others through LinkedIn or other channels, and they'll start to take note of what you are posting. And over time, you become cemented in their minds as the go-to person, as the in your field of expertise. If you give your audience what they want in terms of your knowledge and don't promote yourself and your business all the time, you'll have much better success. Tell people what you do by all means, but make sure it's accompanied by plenty of value-added information that they'll find useful. Remember that sharing your knowledge and your expertise will put you well ahead of almost everyone else in your area of expertise. Interact is our fourth and final strategy. When you interact with your connections and followers, you start to build visibility, relationships, and trust. And there are two ways to interact: through messaging and by engaging on content. Messaging is something we've covered already in terms of getting relationships underway, but here are a few rules to keep in mind as you message your connections and potentially your followers too. Everyone is turned off by someone who only wants to sell and doesn't give value. So don't spam people. You will be blocked if you persist. As well, don't message too frequently, otherwise you end up becoming white noise, like those daily emails that you get from those people that you gave your email address to once to give a free giveaway. Neither leave it so long that they forget you. Keep your messages short. No one likes to read long messages unless the interaction is more personal. You'll find that short messages get a much better response. And always add value in your messages, even if it's just a simple tip, something you've learned that you think they would find useful. Because you have to give to get back. Commenting on other people's posts is an excellent way to give, to get back, and to be noticed. The best way to do this is to add value, and don't be miserly and just say great post in your comment. That helps no one. Write a considered, value-added comment and you become visible while enhancing your credibility to an entirely new network of potential customers and clients. Doing this helps you promote yourself as an expert in your field and is just good manners, especially if the person is also commenting on your post. There is a caveat, however, and it is this: do not hijack other people's posts. This is a really good way to get you banned. You know, a good reason to engage on posts is that it helps your posts get greater reach, but you need to just be careful how far you go. And this image shows a comment that was added to one of my posts just this week. Now, this particular person also used this as a direct message. Now, you can imagine what I did with this. I took the comment down and I blocked the person. I do not want to be connected with somebody who is going to behave like that from the outset, and they will certainly know that that's how I feel, because I did those two things: took the comment down and I blocked them. Encouraging engagement on your post. Now, of course, you want interaction or engagement. This helps more people on the platform, who in turn, it helps you to reach, more people on the platform, which in turn helps you to attract more people to your network. Look, it's a no-brainer. The best single way to get comments on your post, bar none, is to write about a topic that your audience wants to know about. It might be something controversial. Oh, there you go. It might be something that is new in your industry. It might be something that they do not know about, that you've just learned, perhaps a new trend, a new idea, or something that's in the news that everyone's talking about and you have an opinion on too. Yesterday, it was International Women's Day, and there were a lot of posts and a lot of people writing posts and commenting on posts about International Women's Day. If you have a strong network of people who are interested in what you do and are active on LinkedIn, your post will attract comments. Now, you can help it along by making it professional, make it attractive, and adhere to current conventions. For example, people may tell you that ultra short posts do well, and for some people, they may, but by and large, you need sufficient text in your posts to persuade people to click the see more button and read what you have to say. Now, when you publish a post, don't just ignore it. Make sure that you respond promptly to comments left by your connections and followers. This allows a conversation to develop and helps your posts to reach more people. In other words, the algorithm will boost your post into the feed of more people, which increases views and potentially gives you more engagement. Everything I have mentioned here about social selling, which all of this is underpinned by having a complete and compelling LinkedIn profile. If yours is not, then that is the first step that you need to take. Do not invite people to connect until you've had a look at their profile, because they are going to be looking at your profile, and you want your profile to do you justice. You want to be proud of it. And if your profile is not up to scratch, we earlier in the year did a LinkedIn Live about that, and you will find that on our Linkability YouTube channel. When thinking about LinkedIn in the context of social selling, remember that it's all about building relationships with those potential customers, earning their trust through informational and educative content, and giving back by being active here on the platform and interacting and engaging with others. Do all of that and you will have mastered social selling. Now, we've received a question earlier today from a connection of mine who can't be with us, Antonia. And so I wanted to answer that question here. We put it up under Cher's name because Antonia isn't actually with us on the call today. But she's asked, I noticed one very important thing, and that's having a large following is an asset. Now, that's very true. It is an asset. But a very niched large market is even more valuable, and that is also true. She says, I've tried to keep my following to founders, but it's all over the place. And should I be more focused on who I connect with, and what would you suggest, or how would you suggest I do that? Well, I think that there are two angles for this one. Firstly, you are needing to connect, I think, with people that you want to have in your network. So you can control that, and you can control that by only inviting founders and people that you want to have in your network to be part of your, to be a connection of yours. Now, if it was me, I wouldn't limit it just to founders. I would also include perhaps thought leaders, other experts in your area or in your areas of expertise, so that you get a wide variety of information in your feed for a start, and also it makes you look well connected and that you are a part of a wider network yourself. When it comes to followers, you can't control who follows you, so that's a little more difficult to work out, and it doesn't really matter, I don't think, who follows you. If people connect to you, then they are following you by default, and that's important to remember that, so that if someone invites you to connect but they aren't someone that you really want to have as a first degree connection, then you can decline that invitation, but they will still follow you until and unless they remove that follow. And if they're truly interested in what you do, then they won't do that. They will just stay there, and they will make sure that they are seeing all your material and all your posts and your newsletter and your articles. So I hope that helps, Antonia, and thank you for sending that inquiry or that question in. And we have one more question to answer today, and that's from Salima. Hello, Salima. Should we ask people who followed us the reason that they followed us, and also people who viewed your profile? How can we ask them politely why? Now, that's a very good question, and thank you so much for asking it. So, yes, you should ask people why they have asked to connect, because you want to know. You want to know what they have in common with you and what they might be expecting from. Now, when someone asks me to connect, I am assuming, rightly or wrongly, that they're interested in finding out more about LinkedIn. But of course, that may not be true. And unless I ask, I won't actually know. So I tend to assume, and my message that I send in response to a request to connect usually includes that as a caveat. I'm not sure if you're interested in learning more about LinkedIn, but here's what we do so that people understand how we approach LinkedIn and the fact that we do share quite a lot of information. So I think it's perfectly fair to ask that question, Salima. And also, if people are viewing your profile, perhaps not so much. If they've viewed your profile but haven't asked to connect, that might seem a wee bit rude. In that way, at that point, you can ask them to connect yourself if you want to. Hey, I've seen that you've looked at my profile. Would you like to connect? I see we have whatever it is in common. Or they might have just followed you and decided not to connect. And they might have their own reasons for not connecting, but be wanting to follow. Not everybody wants to connect. They might have a policy of only connecting to people they know personally, for example. So there are a wide range of reasons why people don't connect, but what you want are followers, because then their people in those followers network will, and the people in the network of your followers will see your posts, they'll see your articles, and they'll see your newsletters, because your first degree connections and your followers will be commenting on them and engaging with them. All of these things that we've discussed today are social selling. I hope this has been helpful, and we'll be writing some more about social selling in the weeks to come. We've not focused on it much before, but now that we have been paying it a bit more attention, we'll be, I think, putting a bit more time into talking about it and how it can be used here on LinkedIn. Now, we've got some more events coming up over the next few weeks, and we will show you those in just a moment. But I wanted to say thank you so much for joining us today. We are very pleased that you have spent the time with us and hope that you will connect to me, follow me, or perhaps even have a look at our Linkability community site. We have for people who are serious about LinkedIn, we have our Linkability community site. This is a membership site, and where we put a lot of information about LinkedIn and where people can help each other, and I get to help a lot more people with their LinkedIn. So thank you again for joining us, and we will see you next week on LinkedIn with Lynnaire, a live audio event. Thank you, and we'll see you again soon. Bye for now.